Matt, can you keep it down now, please? Thanks. 7:30, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Roll call, William Johnson.
Here.
Thomas Graffinino.
Here.
Lynn Colligan.
Here.
Lisa Kreckler.
Here.
Phil Diorio is here. And we also have Tim Hill, the ZBA attorney via Zoom. First order of business is to review and approve the July 16th, 2025 minutes. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have one resolution tonight, 20 Manhasset Road. Christina, will you give us a little synopsis of that?
Application by Eric Kraus for an area variance at 20 Manhasset Road, Shelter Island, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map A-2-36. The applicant requests an area variance for relief from the requirements of the Town Code Section 133-17A1B in order to construct the proposed accessory structure, which includes an accessory apartment on a lot that is 28.170 square feet in area, where 30,000 square feet is required. Section 133-17A1B establishes that the minimum requirement lot area for such an improvement to non-conforming lot be no less than 75% of the lot area requirement of the district. Here, as this property is located in the C district with a lot area requirement of 40,000 square feet, the proposed accessory apartment requires a lot area of 30,000, 75% of 40,000. The subject parcel is 28,170 square feet in area and is deficient by 1,830 square feet. The variance sought, therefore, is for allowance of this 1,830 square feet for deficiency. The resolution of the board is to approve the request for an area variance is reflected in the site plan, an architectural drawing by site plan, not architectural drawing, but the site plan by Sherman Engineering and Consulting PA dated April 7 and April 8, 2025.
We're going to have a roll call vote. William Johnson?
How can we?
Got to make a,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? William Johnson?
Yes.
Thomas Graffinino?
Yes.
Lynn Colligan?
Yes.
Lisa Kreckler?
Yes.
And Phil Diorio votes yes. Motion carries 5-0. So we have three things initially on the agenda in terms of applications. First was 80 North Ferry Road. They asked for an adjournment. It's now going to be adjourned until August 27th, 2025. Second is 9 Clinton Avenue, O'Connell. We had requested a agreed upon parking plan by the applicants and the heights. That thing is, there's been a little bit of back and forth, but no complete agreement yet. So we're going to adjourn that again until August 27th, 2025. So that.
I just entered the correspondence in the record.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that, Christian.
The letter of support was received from Josh Chapin, 22 Prospect, Robert Tucker, 2 Waverly Place, Bruce Brewer, 14 Garden Avenue. Parking plan was received from Sherman Engineering and Consulting. Letter was submitted from Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corporation, and a response to the letter from Matt Sherman, Sherman Engineering. Thank you.
Thank you. So that leaves us with our last application tonight, and that's 74 Peconic Avenue. Christina, will you read the resolution, please? I mean, the notice. Sorry, I'm really adult here today. A little more liquid IV.
A hearing on the application of Courtney Sullivan, owner of 74 Peconic Avenue, Shelter Island, New York, which is located in Zone A Nature Overlay, and is more specifically described on the Suffolk County Tax Map at 700-25-1-6. The applicant is seeking relief from the Town Code Section 133-6B5A and B for the following: special permit for a second floor addition with 215 square feet of new bulk and the pre-existing non-conforming area, and a special permit for the second floor roof deck with 341 square feet of new bulk in the pre-existing non-conforming area. The new deck and pergola requires an area variance to hold 24.1 foot front yard setback where 40 is required. An area variance and a special permit is required in the rear yard for the new steps. The outdoor shower requires a special permit for an expansion of a non-conforming build and an area variance to hold 16 feet front yard setback where 40 is required. A special permit and an area variance is required for the AC units holding a 5 feet rear yard setback where 25 is required. An area variance is required for the swimming pool holding 10.2 feet front yard setback where 40 is required.
Thank you, Christina. Just a couple of quick things, going through the plans and talking to Reed. There's one typo in his denial letter, where it says it's constructed a new 20 by 25 swimming pool. It's actually a 10 by 25 swimming pool.
It's okay.
And then on the survey that we have, or the site survey, it shows from North Silver Beach Road, principal setback 25 feet, where it should be 40 feet because that is a front yard setback on North Silver Beach Road. So those were two things I just wanted to make sure we had cleaned up before we got started here. Matt, are you here to present?
Yes, sir, I am. Matthew Sherman, Sherman Engineering and Consulting. Thank you very much.
Can you start sharing again?
I'm here on behalf of Courtney Sullivan and Pam Demarest. Did it again.
You did
I
it?
did it
Oh, my
again.
goodness.
Pam Pospisil is here tonight, who is the architect for the project. I've got a hang of it. Let's see. This project, we were in front of the town board on Monday night for the wetlands permit portion of this application. So this has got multiple components to it. I'll go through the project plans. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to stop me at any time, let me know. Also for Pam Pospisil, as the designer, she's got a good feel for why the property obviously developed the way that it's being developed. And then for the property owners as well, they're here to answer any questions if you have any. Okay, it's a small piece of property, and I'll have zoomed in versions of these coming up here in just a second. This is the site survey, zoomed in version of, Peconic Avenue to the north, Shelter Island Sound to the south, and then North Silver Beach Road is going to be to the east. It's a pre-existing property. The house was built in the late 70s, and currently it's 1,300 square feet, give or take, one-story ranch-style home with a deck on the water side, and it's situated about in the middle of the property between the bulkhead and between the road. This drawing, I just got it up here, it was on for the town board on Monday night as well. This is the same drawing that went in for the denial, it's the same drawing that went in to be approved at the wetlands, and it's the same drawing that's being submitted to you all for approval. There are gonna be a couple of modifications of this based on the wetlands hearing on Monday night, and there may be some based on the hearing tonight, but just so that everybody knows that it's the same drawing across the board for all three different submittals, so that there's nothing that's really changing one way or the other. Okay, so this is a zoomed in version of the existing survey, or the existing site plan. Again, Shelter Island Sound here to the south on the bottom. The typo that was on the survey that Reed had referenced was off of North Silver Beach Road. This is A zone. So there's a 40-foot front yard setback and a 25-foot side yard setback for principal structures. The survey referenced the 25-foot setback for principal structures. North Silver Beach Road is a road, even though it's not developed as one. So therefore, we've got a 40-foot front yard setback from there. We also have a 40-foot front yard setback from Peconic Avenue up here to the north. So this is all pre-existing, non-conforming for this building. And we'll go into these numbers in more detail in a minute, but 456 square feet on the west-hand side. Middle of the property is fine, and then 488 square feet on the east side, North Silver Beach Road side of the main building. There's this waterfront deck that's going to be reconfigured. Currently, there's 124 square feet of it in the front yard setback of North Silver Beach Road. Bilco entrance for the basement, 11 square feet is in the front yard setback. the existing septic system. Septic tank is just off the northwest corner of the house, and then the leaching pool also extends further up to the north, closer to that property line. The new septic that we're proposing to be putting in is in about the same location. The existing well over here near North Silver Beach Road is going to remain as it currently exists. We do have an application into the health department. They've reviewed it. They've taken it as far as they can until we have approval or resolution one way or the other from the ZBA. All right, this is the proposed plan. A little bit messier than the previous one, and we'll go into this in a little bit cleaner form here in just a second. But just to kind of give a brief overview, same footprint for the building, existing and proposed. We are proposing this hatched area here is a second floor that's going to the top of the existing first floor. On the far, I'm calling it the west side, but it's really the northwest side, but on that far west side, we're going to have a roof deck over top of the existing first floor that's being modified. And then over on the southeast side, or what we're referring to as the east side for the purposes of the discussion, is an existing garage that's going to be converted into living space. So the whole building is going from 3 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms. All right, so this is that more simplified version of what we're talking about. Primary thing along Peconic Avenue, just over 10 feet off of Peconic Avenue, we're proposing that 10 by 25 swimming pool. The 40-foot front yard setback is basically right along the exact same line as the 100-foot wetland setback. And coming back further into the property, the proposed second floor with this hash mark. This section over here is the portion that is non-compliant with zoning code. So we've got just over 1,022 square feet of a new second floor, and 215 square feet of that second floor is non-compliant with the side yard setback. We're also proposing, this is that roof deck I was talking about a second ago, 241 square feet, right here on the 7.5 feet in from the side yard line. We're proposing the mechanical equipment right next to the house at about 5 feet off of the property line. The mechanical equipment, because it's within the minimum setback, is going to have to meet the decibel limitations as specified in town code. That's possible for the AC equipment and for the pool equipment. And then coming over onto the other side, we basically have that same 488 square foot non-compliance for the building. And then the deck is going to get a slight reconfiguration. We're pulling it in closer to the house to get it further from the wetlands. We bring it in about 5 feet and extend the length of it out a little bit. So the new non-compliant deck in the front yard is going to be 158 square feet. So this is it, looking at it from the perspective of the site, just to kind of keep things in uniform vision with the way the survey is laid out. This down here right now, it's not really a concern of the board, but it does come up with the wetlands end of it, and since this is a combined application, this is existing non-turf grass or non-turf buffer. That's going to be modified to a certain degree so that it comes up and wraps around the property and goes up those side yard lines. One of the changes that we had made based on the discussion on Monday night was we had the pool fence coming all the way down here to the bulkhead on both sides. One of the council people was concerned about having the bulkhead, there's a tall bulkhead, having that act as that outside pool fence, because even though it's perfectly safe for the pool, it's not necessarily safe coming from the pool. So in order to protect anybody, any little kids, animals, anything like that, we're gonna, instead of bringing those fence lines down to the bulkhead, we're gonna return them into the house at that roadward corner of the house, so that the pool is going to be enclosed by a fence that basically rings the front yard. One of the things that we were looking at and we were grappling with was the pool in relation to Peconic Avenue. They've got a good number of plantings that they've just planted, so there's going to be a good visual barrier to the pool along Peconic Avenue at 10 feet from the line. But we do recognize that that's not the minimum variance required to get this pool in place. So we had looked at a couple of different things. We looked at it at 10 feet from the property line, 10.2 feet, which is where we would like to have it. We also looked at it a little bit further away, 16 feet from the property line and 27 feet from the building. On the left-hand side, you'll see it's 20 feet from the septic system. That's a minimum requirement from the health department. It also puts it at 35 feet from the property line on North Silver Beach Road. So it pulls it back into the property a little bit more. It gets it a little bit closer to the house, but it does get it a little bit further from Peconic Avenue. These two dry wells labeled SP are the two swimming pool dry wells that are required by code. And then this third option gets it as far landward as we can get it without going over the 100-foot wetland setback. It also puts it at just over 15 feet, 15 and a half feet from the house. So the problem, even though this is the least non-compliant option, the problem with this option is that with the parking here and the front door and where it is, it creates a choke point coming into the house. So moving that pool as landward as we can, it creates a very awkward front entrance. So based on that, that was why we were ideally hoping for the 10-foot off the front yard, and keeping that area as open and exposed as possible for a front yard, but understanding where the board could very well land on the pool location, also looking at that option number 2, where we're 16 feet from the front yard and 27 feet from the house. This is the vegetation plan that Christian Clark put together for us. What I like about this plan, other than the overall theme of using native vegetation, keeping that existing non-turf buffer and then expanding on it, is number one, they've got a white oak that they've actually had me go through a couple of contortions to redesign the septic to keep that space open for that white oak. But Silver Beach Association is also suggesting and asking people to plant these specific trees. So that happened to be just a coincidence. It was, the property owners are along the same lines with the Silver Beach Association as far as the things they want to see happening with some of this vegetation. So that white oak is going to be going in there, but then also these juniper adjacent to where the roof deck is. So those will grow to be large trees. The neighbor has.
How big will they be when they're planted, Matt?
Do you know how big they would be when they're planted?
Good question, specified, but probably like 12 feet. 12 feet, I guess the biggest.
So 12 feet is the estimate, but I'm sure we can get that clarified, what the minimum size we would want if the board was to entertain that, specify a minimum size to be put in. The neighbor has plantings, a hedge along that property line, but the hedge is only about 8 to 9 feet high. So a roof deck would be sitting right above the level of the hedge, so I think it would be good to have something higher on the applicant side that they can control and that they can provide the visual boundary so that it's not the obligation of the neighbor who's not doing anything to provide that. So here's the basic floor plans for the house, the basement plan. Right now on the this side on your screen, on the left-hand side, you've got the existing garage. It's unexcavated. There's a slab and grade. In the middle of the house is a basement, and that basement has got a 7.5 foot to 8 foot ceiling on it. And then on the right-hand side, you've got a crawl space. That crawl space is primarily going to be excavated out. The exterior foundation wall is going to remain, and Pan has put in a design for a shelf-type foundation, and I'll show you a section of that here in just a second, so that the new foundation wall, which is this dotted line, is brought in several feet from the existing foundation, so we don't have to worry about undermining the existing foundation in order to open this up and give them some a family room, some more living space in the basement. And really, it's going to result in that total area is about 524 square feet. If you take that shelf area out, which is going to be 4 to 5 feet high, you're down to just over 300 square feet. So it's a decent little family room down there in the basement. And there's going to be a laundry. There would not be a bathroom in the basement. Excuse me. So for the first floor, And the drawings you guys have in your application package show this a little bit better, that the existing floor plan is in red with the dashed red lines for what's coming out, and then the thick black lines are what's staying in, and new construction. So here on the left-hand side, the garage turns into a living room with a couple of outside storage areas. Then you've got your dining area, kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and a full bathroom. The stairs absorb what is currently a bathroom, and they wrap around and come up to the second floor. And this is a diagram that Pam has put together to show the areas of the new construction that on the first floor are going to require variances. So we've got these couple of steps that come out the door that are new construction within the side yard setback. That area there where there isn't anything, that's the existing step. And then over here on the left-hand side, this is that deck that we were talking about. So that green is existing deck that's going away, and the blue is a new deck, which keeps the overall square footage of that deck the same, but it reconfigures it a little bit to get it further from the wetlands. So here's the second floor plan, where we've got two bedrooms, and each bedroom has its own bathroom. This is the stairs coming up from the first floor roof on the left-hand side, and then the roof deck on the right-hand side. And again, this is the section of the second floor living area that's going to require a variance. So your elevations, again, in red is the existing, and in black is
Can you
the
go back to
proposed.
that last slide, please?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Okay, no problem. This shows the first floor roof ridge runs right along through here. So the first floor ridge existing is at about 13.5 feet above grade. The proposed roof level on the one-story sections is going to come down by about 3.5 feet, come down to about a 10-foot elevation. So the first floor section of the building gets reduced. And then the second floor elevation, we're going to go up to an upper ridge of about just under 22 feet, 21.7 feet plus or minus from average grade.
That's going up about 9 feet.
Yeah, about 9 feet. Yeah, we're at 13.5 and we're going up to 21.7, so say 22. Yeah, so just shy of 9 feet. You can see it better on these side elevations where you've got the ridge on the existing, and then the roof deck that the ceiling structure, roof structure gets reframed. So right now it's a pitched roof, so it's going to be brought down to a flat roof. There is also a railing, obviously, for the roof deck, so that railing would stick up. So your total, the top of the railing elevation would be about a foot higher than the existing ridge. It would be at about a 14.6 foot elevation. And when I say about, it's because the grade isn't perfectly level around the building, so it's a plus or minus a couple of inches kind of thing. This is the section I told you about a second ago. As we're coming in, road is on the left-hand side, water is on the right-hand side. The swimming pool is at just over 3.5 feet from groundwater level. The dry wells, the deepest dry wells we have on site proposed are going to be 7 feet deep. That gives us 2 feet above groundwater. The basement, this is the foundation for the existing crawl space. So we're pulling it in several feet. And then the new basement is going to be down here, and we're going to be coming in, so we're just about 2 feet above groundwater again. Couple of renderings to show what the house is going to look like. This is looking at it from the parking area from the road. This is from the opposite corner at the bulkhead looking back in toward the house. So you've got your ground level deck. There's a pergola over top of the deck proposed. This is the roof deck over here. And looking at it from the opposite corner. And just a couple of photographs just to give a feel for what the lot looks like. You may have gone out and looked at it yourselves already. But this is the front yard where we'd be putting the septic in about the area that's right in front of us. To the left would be the swimming pool, front door of the house, The roof deck would be right up over this section, and then the second floor would be up over this section here. Looking back past the house toward the water, and then along the bulkhead, this is that non-turf buffer that's there now. And looking back in the other direction. So that's what I have as far as the presentation. Be more than happy to go back over anything. If you've got any questions, or if you have any questions about something I haven't touched on, or again, if you have any questions for Pam or the property owner.
I would say there's a couple things that trouble me. The first is the pool in the front yard. It's, whatever, it's troubling. And the second is the second story in the setback. You know, we've been trying to get away from that. I mean, I guess I'm thankful that you just have the roof deck, you know, closest to the property line. But those are a couple things that I find concerning.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And when we started working on this project, the first plan they had a second floor all the way over to that far sideline. Because it made the most sense as far as trying to maximize the amount of square footage they could get on the second floor. And we had the discussion because of previous applications and the position of the board on past projects, that pulling it back as much as they could and still obtain the benefit of that second floor, not giving up the bedrooms on the first floor and being able to do 2 bedrooms on the second floor, and integrating where could we get a staircase without sacrificing enough to make the project not make sense. And that's where Pam was doing her work, and she can speak more to the flow of the house and the flow of the design and how those different components kind of evolve in order to come up with the plan the way we did. So we had gone through several iterations to try and get it as far away from that side yard line as possible. I'll step down and let Pam come up and have her.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a difficult site. We've got 2 front yards.
Identify yourself.
Oh, sorry. Pam Pascal, not Pam Demerance. Pascal from Marketing. It's a difficult site. We have 2 front yards. We have a house that's located very close to one side. We tried to respect and be sensitive to the neighbor and respect the setbacks. Given the square footage and trying to do as little as we could in terms of damage to the ground floor, trying to maintain the 2 bedrooms, maintain the kitchen, et cetera. The only logical place for the flow of the house was to place the stair where you currently see it in the plan. The original idea was for it to be right in the corner, utilizing a small bedroom that really wasn't much of anything, but that was right on the property line. So that's why we pushed it over, sacrificed the bathroom, flipped the bathroom to make room for the stair. That allowed us then required us then to get 2 bedrooms upstairs. So I think we've been as sensitive as we could, given the conditions and what we're trying to fit into the house. So I could not come up with a plan that moved the stair anywhere that would allow us to shift everything towards the little public landing road.
Anyone have any questions for Pam? Is there anyone else here who would like to weigh in on this application? Please step up to the podium.
Hi, thank you very much. I have this weird thing, glasses needing to be on and off. My name is Julia Brennan. My husband Eddie and I own the property immediately next door at number 72 Peconic, and across the street, kind of diagonally at 57 Peconic. When we purchased our also pre-existing non-conforming house at 57 Peconic, we also came to the zoning board with a plan that we were going to build a house in the footprint of the house that we had, including the garage and everything else. We were gonna put a second floor on, we were gonna have a big front porch and all the rest. And we were flat out denied. And our house was 18 and a half feet from our closest neighbor. That was our biggest intrusion, 18 and a half feet. We had an air conditioner that was there for 20 years. And the zoning board required us to move out of that 18 and a half foot side yard setback so that it wouldn't bother our next door neighbor or be a nuisance for our next door neighbor whose property at the time had nothing on it. It was an undeveloped piece of property, much like the piece of property that we have next door to this proposal. We have a bulkhead and stairs and, it's landscaped and all the rest. But this was a vacant property that had nothing going on, and we were required to move an air conditioner that existed. One of the typos, and there are many, as you pointed out, Phil, in this application is it says it's going to relocate air conditioning units. They're also alternatively referred to as air conditioning units and heat pumps, which is an important distinction because air conditioning units are on in the summertime and heat pumps go year round. That's something that it's an air conditioner in the summer and it's heating the house in the winter. So it isn't just noise for the one season when maybe everybody else has their air conditioners going and the whole town is buzzing with air conditioning noise. It's actually year round. There also is a plan on the plan just to put pool equipment in that same very narrow area between our property line, where somebody mentioned we do have an 8-foot hedge on the other side of our fence. The fence is on the boundary, and then we have an 8-foot hedge that we didn't plant. The previous owner of this property actually planted that hedge thinking that property belonged to them. And so they planted a hedge 10 feet away from their house, and it turned out it was on, when we did the site surveys and all that, it turned out it was on our property. So we do maintain that hedge at about 8 feet, which is what we have all over our property. It bothers me immensely, and it bothers my husband and I immensely, that the zoning board, which denied us permission, we had to go back to the drawing board, and eventually we came up with a design that we had to keep things inside the setbacks, and it worked out just fine. But it bothers us that there would be consideration of something that so aggressively invades this already really tiny setback at 7.5 feet. We're gonna put a lot of equipment. All of the equipment on the property that makes noise outdoors is going into that 7.5 foot space, as well as trees and walkways and a fence for the pool and a gate for the pool and all that. That's a really busy little area. I think the planning board in their memo referred to it as, there's a little bit of busyness over in that corner, and we're the ones who are most impacted by that busyness. When I saw that there was a swimming pool in this plan, like Phil, I'm a little troubled by a front yard swimming pool. We have 2 swimming pools in front yards on Peconic Avenue right now, but they're in properties that are really, really big. And they're far back from the road, they meet all of the setbacks, none of them are 10 feet from the road. But even so, the neighbor's swimming pool, we love our neighbors. We're very happy to welcome you to the neighborhood and hope that we can all, be happy ever after with a really great plan. But our neighbor put a swimming pool aligned with our house and then put his house aligned with our pool. And what that means is that when they're in their pool playing Marco Polo at 9 o'clock at night, and we're getting ready to go to bed because we have to go to work in the morning, this is what we're listening to. The people who live immediately across the street, they're not here to represent themselves, and I don't plan to represent them, but they will be impacted by this swimming pool very directly. They also likewise have a very small piece of property. They fit a new building on it inside the setbacks, and they have a lovely front porch where they also enjoy the view of the sunsets that everybody loves out in Silver Beach. But they will be directly and adversely impacted by the noise from that swimming pool. I will also point out that the idea that this creates a squeeze on the property and the entry experience to the property has to do with the owners changing where you arrive at the property. So previously, this is one of the few public landings that actually has a driveway going off of it, directly off of it. It goes into a 2-car garage. And there's a little landing pad and then a 2-car garage. And almost from the very outset, my new neighbors have chosen to park their cars in a different location, and they park them in what they have marked as the parking pad, the parking area. So there was a choice that was made to change how you arrive at the house and how you have to cross a yard to get to the front door. It used to be you arrived at the house and you went up a little path that was parallel to the house into the front door, which could still happen if there were a swimming pool in a different location. Should you permit a swimming pool or allow a swimming pool that conflicts with setbacks in the front yard, there are alternative locations for it. But more than that, that swimming pool represents an obstruction to me, to my mind, of being able to take some of this building bulk that's now being put into the side yard setback into a place where there are no conflicts, where there's no conflict with the 40-foot setback from the front. There's no conflict from the 40-foot setback from the other front, and there's no conflict from the 25-foot setback on our side yard. It's a pretty good sized piece of property. What it does is it puts it inside the 75-foot wetlands boundary, because the majority of that property is inside the 75-foot wetlands boundary. And so this is going to be a zoning board sort of versus a town board. What's more important? Anyway, with respect, there were a couple of other typos. As I said, the air conditioners do not exist on this property. They're listed as relocated. I think what that was meant is maybe they were relocated from a previous iteration of the plan to this new location. But there haven't been air conditioning units that I'm aware of on that property. And if they were added recently. The plan also variously refers to the side yard, which is on the west. Matt is right, it's actually northwest, but the west side, that's variously referred to also as the rear yard setback. And I just wanted to point that out. The plan that's available for the public to see online, that set of plans, doesn't really demonstrate in a clear way the conversion of garage space that is already inside the setback into living space. One of the things that the architect just said is that there's no place else that they could have put a stairwell. The living room, the proposed living room is over 40 feet long. And lots of people have a staircase that lands in their living room. And so instead of putting a staircase in a place where it requires a special permit from you, there are alternative locations. There's alternative locations in the front yard of the house, and there's alternative locations within the structure of the house. So we would just ask you to consider that there are these alternatives. The council person who spoke at the town board meeting the other day asked actually that the backyard along the water be fenced. She wasn't saying that should be the pool fence, but rather that it be fenced because it is such a big job in that area. I just wanted to correct that. I just want to make sure I get all my points across. The tree that suggested, that white oak tree, there was a very large tree practically in that same location. And in the latest go through by the town to clear the roadsides, that tree was cut down. So we have a very old tree that was in that location that was taken down. And so I would caution my neighbors that if they're going to plant a tree, make sure that you talk to Ken Lewis first, because his crew might come in and trim it heavily or remove it if it's too close to the road. And then it was also said that the house was built in the 1970s. It was not. That house dates from at least 1958, if not earlier. I know it was built by George Doriden's grandparents at a time when a lot of houses were being built out there, all around that same time. There are many, many instances of pre-existing non-conforming houses in Silver Beach especially, including ones that butt up onto paper roads or town landings. So this is not a unique thing. If they have to demonstrate that there's a hardship, my understanding is that the hardship really needs to be unique to the property. This is not a unique situation. It occurs all over Shelter Island. I would argue that this is self-created hardship in that there's a desire to do something, and this is a very beautiful, I think it's a very beautiful plan, and I applaud the design of it and all the rest. But I worry that it's impacting our privacy. We're going to have light that's going to come onto our property that doesn't now. When Matt talked about the roof being lowered, if you look at the dotted line, the ceiling on the first floor is actually being significantly raised. And so that second floor deck isn't really going to be at the line kind of where the floor is, the ceiling is.
It'd be lower than the peak of the roof now, but yes, but right.
But whatever's going to happen up there, we worry about, I understand that in the technical terms that you all have to deal with, there's interior living space, and then there's sort of spaces that you create, you don't count when you figure out how much square footage is actually being assembled. But you don't put a deck on a house because you don't want to inhabit it. That deck is being created in order to enjoy the sunset, to look out over our beautiful, currently vacant piece of property. And who could blame you? I think it's a beautiful spot. You could put a beautiful deck facing out front as well, or facing out over the water as well. But it's not being put there to not be inhabited. And I would say the same thing about a basement. Basement maybe isn't included in the inhabited space. They're not putting a pool table in a basement to not have people go down and play pool in that basement. So it is an inhabited space. And also, I just object to some of the ways that the proposal is presented. So the places where it is clear that it is a garage have sort of a placard over them that says what the square footage of change is going to be. And I wish that I don't know that Matt showed the exact thing that's available to the public, but I wish that the imagery were a little bit more clear so people could see this is a garage conversion. And the last thing I want to say, it came up on, I think Pam Demarest, plus mentioned it at the end of the town board when they opened their public hearing on the same property. The 50% rule is something that used to be enforced in a very different way than it is today, apparently. And it used to be, and was the case in my house across the street, but if you had to, in making adjustments to a house, impacted more than 50% of that house, it was considered a tear down. And not only did the whole house have to meet the New York State building codes, which makes sense, you want people to upgrade their houses and have the wiring and the plumbing and everything be upgraded, but it had to meet the current zoning, which is why we were sent back to the drawing board. I don't think it's widely known, and again, this isn't really a zoning issue, but it's widely understood in this community right now. I went and asked Reed Karen about it, and he explained to me that that was a mistaken impression on the town, part of the town attorney and the previous town building inspector, that was an appropriate way to interpret what the state law said, which is when they said state law, they also meant the zoning codes. But that's not the case anymore. So I think it just bears explanation, maybe not by the zoning board, but certainly by somebody. When this policy changed, but people weren't notified that policy had changed. It's no longer in play. There's a different kind of set of rules. People made decisions about their most valuable asset. They were held to account. Ms. Picozzi made us not build the house we wanted to build, partly because of the 50% rule. We had to build our house in 3 stages because we never wanted to go past 50%. Lots of people did that. There's all kinds of weird little towers all over Silver Beach that people added to their houses because it was less than 50%. So I just would hope that through this process, that becomes more clear to people what the change in the 50% rule is. Because this house is a brand new house. The retention of the basement is performative. Yes, basement walls will be retained. I believe that. I'm not saying it won't happen. But that's probably all, and it's because they're required to probably do that. There's gonna be a new basement foundation. There's gonna be new walls. You can't chop the roof off a house. It doesn't go up to the new ceiling line without doing a lot of new framing. So this is basically a new house that's occupying a footprint that's pre-existing. I understand our rules have changed, but a lot of people were held to those rules for a long time. I think it's unfair, or whatever that's worth.
So can I ask you a couple questions?
Yes.
So first, I get it with the pool equipment, and I kind of get it with the deck. So would you propose that if the applicant is looking for more square footage living area, that they decrease the size of the second floor and build into the front yard and forget the pool? Is that kind of where you would be headed?
I think that my concern is that there's a lot of desire for a very small piece of property. There's a desire for many things to happen on a very small piece of property, including the desire to have a swimming pool in a waterfront lot. That's a choice people can make, and you can decide what you want to give. To me, to put the need of a swimming pool ahead of the structure itself, I think you have to start with the structure itself. Can the structure itself fit into the zoning setbacks? And then is there room left over for a swimming pool if you want to have a swimming pool? But to ask neighbors to bear these intrusions into the setbacks that are there to help maintain their privacy, to help free them from noise, unreasonable amounts of noise. Sure, somebody could sit in the yard on my property line and listen to the stereo and I could have nothing to do about it. But that's very different from somebody building a house and expanding a house 7.5 feet from my property.
Now, one thing I would say, you know, that there is nowhere to build on this property within the zoning and wetland setbacks. Literally, there is
I know.
zero space.
It's gonna be a
So this is a property that has had a house on it, and it's a property that, you know, is I would call it a legal residential building lot.
Yep, understood.
So the question becomes, you know, in terms of, you know, do you rip out the whole house, move the foundation towards the road a little bit so that you give up on the wetlands a little bit? Or do you try to preserve the old foundation instead of tearing up the whole yard and try to do something off of that, which is kind of what they're proposing here with the upward push, I would say, and the finishing of the garage as well. So, you know, I definitely have some concerns here. There's no doubt about it. But, you know, at some point, something's going to be built here because, you know, we can't, you know, you can't say here, you can put a 2x4 here and live on it, you know.
I understand that, and I appreciate you taking the time to converse with me about it. I will say, I find it hard to believe when our other next door neighbor on the other side built a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom house, 75 feet from the road, didn't require any zoning variances until he had to put his air conditioner on the ground. And he didn't build the house, it was built by a developer. That there's such a strong feeling about the wetlands boundary that adding behind a house, like the landward side of a house, would be so offensive to the wetland. So that's my question back to you. There is room in the front yard, a little bit of room, not much, but there is some room there for additional space for that house. These are choices, people make choices. We're gonna live with our neighbors in peace and harmony. There's nothing adverse here, but this is our opportunity to come and say, we object to the increased bulk so close to our property. This is our opportunity to do it, and if we don't say it now, we won't have an opportunity again if this goes forward. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else here wish to weigh in on this application?
Phil, I would. Mike Gaynor, 8 Cobbetts Lane, if I could.
Sure.
Thank you
Mr.
very
Gaynor,
much.
please go ahead.
Thanks so much. I'm reflecting on Ms. Brennan's comments, and these are just general comments, and I think they're important. There's obviously many important filings in front of the zoning board right now, and there's going to be a lot more going forward. So please don't think I'm being whatever. I'm in any way trying to stir anything up about Sylvester Manor, but it's important to note that Ms. Brennan is in charge of the Manor application that's currently in front of the board. And yet she's making some important objections that impact her personally, that are impacting me personally on my property. And I think they're important to highlight. She's talking about how this particular project is impacting, it's creating noise and parking, and that it's important that we hold people accountable inside of this, inside of our community for these zoning applications. And I want to point out on the 26th of July, the Manor had a
Mr.
corporate
Gaynor,
event.
listen, Mr. Gaynor, we're just going to talk about this property and this application tonight. I really don't want to refer back to.
I'm trying to do that, Phil. I am trying to do that because I think I'm drawing an important analogy here. Ms. Brennan is concerned about noise in her community, and many people are concerned about how these applications are being handled. And this is an important distinction. My family and my community is being impacted by noise inside this community. I think these are important points. And I think if you folks are going to hear these applications, you have to look at them broadly. Like I actually agree with Ms. Brennan and that neighborhood, that having a pool up against the roadway there is a problem for the entire neighborhood, right? And people aren't informed about these applications when they take place. And so nobody's here to discuss that. So I agree with her to that extent. And I'm simply trying to say that I simply want to make a point that the board needs to think about, not just these individual applications, which is what you want to do here, Phil. It's more about what is the impact of these implications more broadly. If this application, if these people do get their pool in their front yard, what does that mean for future applications? If Sylvester Manor gets their application approved, what does that mean for applications going forward? I'm telling you, you've heard this already from other people. You're hearing it inside of town board meetings. Bert Wave brought this up. Jerry Siller brought this up. What you do on the
Mr. Gaynor,
Sylvester...
I feel like you're straying off topic here.
Mr.
I
Gaynor,
don't
we're
believe-
talking about Peconic. We're not talking about Sylvester Manor.
And what I would say, Mr. Gaynor, is we do consider the ramifications of any approval or denial. We're not blind to those thoughts.
Well, that's encouraging to hear, Phil, and I sincerely appreciate it. And I wasn't trying to take up more of your time. I noticed that Julia got a tremendous amount of time for this particular application. And I think it's important that the community understand. People in this community are not familiar with these zoning laws, you know what I mean? And the ramifications of them. And there's not a lot of participants here. There are 10 people who are the exact same 10 people who come and visit and watch the exact same application that's taking place here. And these things are important. And what you're going to do here this evening is going to have a big impact on the community. And so I think it's important that this be put into a broader perspective. That's all. I appreciate all of your folks' efforts on these things. And I just thought it was important to put this into perspective with specifically the Sylvester Manor application that's going to be coming up here shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Gaynor.
So
Thank you.
thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else in Zoom would like to weigh in? Does anyone else here want to weigh in again, not weigh in again? We're going to have to adjourn this.
Phil, may I just say one more thing?
Then you need to come up to the podium, Pam.
Just a correction, because I think in Mrs. Brennan's comment, she said something about we're building 7 feet from the property line, the second floor. It's not 7 feet. It is set back further than that. An additional.
It's 7.5 feet on the.
On the ground floor.
Right.
But on the second floor, it's the 7.5 feet plus another 10 and change. And then the other thing is, in terms of building towards the street, we've tried to keep the footprint of the building unchanged. And yes, there is room to build towards the street, but if one buys a piece of waterfront property, one wants to take advantage of the view. I mean, that's where the value, the value of the property is, it's waterfront. So we've tried to stay within the footprint of the building as best we could, respecting the property line the best we could, and adding out the front. There's, other than putting a bedroom on that side of the house, there's no other function that we're adding to this house. We're not adding, a mudroom and a playroom and a whatever. We're doing the playroom space under the house, and to add towards the street, it really doesn't do the property justice.
The location of the proposed AC units and pool equipment, I'll say that's troubling also. I know, it's hard for me to see how we move forward much on this. I, I think I don't want to close the hearing. I think we should leave it open and then give you all the opportunity to come back with something that might be a little more palatable here.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I don't want to belabor any points. I do respect a lot of what Ms. Brennan had said, and a lot of her concerns. One question I do have for the board was my impression of the mechanical equipment was that it could be installed within the setback as long as it was as close to the building as the manufacturer recommends as a minimum, as long as it meets the decibel threshold.
But that's based on thinking that there's no other good spot for it on the property, right? And that's typically when that kind of thing happens. It's a thing that really came up a lot in the Heights where there's nowhere to go. Here, there's somewhere else to go that's not, 7.5 feet from the property.
No, that's fair enough. And I would, we'd looked at a couple of different options, putting them over on the opposite side of the building. They'd be in the front yard setback of North Silver Beach Road, which almost is a no harm, no foul situation because there's no right over there. It's North Silver Beach Road. So that's an alternative. If we adjourn and we go back and we do some redesign, I know you can't give us design recommendations or anything to that effect, but I also don't want to just be spinning our wheels.
It's hard for me personally right now, Matt, to see how this pool is going to work here. I have a very hard time seeing how that's going to work here. I don't see how the pool equipment and the condensers can work where they are. And I am concerned about the second floor in the setback. I don't know where you go from here.
I understand.
Those are my concerns. Anybody else have any additional or different concerns or unconcerned with my concerns?
Shared
I'm
concerns.
Yeah.
Especially with the pool. And I do like the idea that Matt did show a difference of 10 and 16 and what was it, 25 feet? Showed different positions of it, but still.
And I do think that Ms. Brennan's point of the driveway off of North Silver Beach Road, that is where the property's been accessed in the past and might allow for some space between a pool and a thing, but it's hard for me to see this pool in the front yard, really. It's, I don't know. Does anybody else have any other input for them to? No? Yes, maybe?
I think you
Those are the
stated
major
well,
three
yeah.
points,
yeah.
All right, good. Anyone else here wish to comment on this application? Please step up.
Hi, again, it's Julia Brennan. I want to say I feel that this is a very respectful exchange for all parties. I feel that this is what the process is supposed to be. We come with our concerns and then we express them. You all are in the hot seat to make a decision, and I appreciate that you have heard us. I understand that the decision we end up with what we see, and we'll respect that. Just letting you know.
Thank you.
And all the respect for everybody, all the participants in this process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to comment here? Anybody out in Zoom land wish to comment? Tim, is there anything that you think that we need to pay attention to here right now?
No, I mean, I think that if there's going to be a revised proposal, anything would await that without, further comment.
Okay. So I would suggest maybe that we adjourn this until September, because now we've got a couple things on that we've adjourned until August. Let me just pull up the phone here.
24.
24th? Okay,
That's 24th.
we're going to adjourn this until September 24th. All right, we have one other item tonight to discuss, and it's going to be a very brief thing here. How can I not hold this? I see. So during the site plan review, the meeting that the town board held on Monday, there was a discussion if they would like the zoning board appeals to weigh in on. So I'm going to ask each of you to look at the GS Stiller GR Gardens LLC application and take a look at the town code, see if there are any zoning issues that you see. And we can discuss that at our work session in August, which would be, come on, Christina, the 20th, August 20th.
Can you get any guidance on that, or you want us to just look at it individually?
Yeah, take a look and then we can hash it out a little
Okay.
bit. All right?
Yep.
All right, can I have a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make a motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.